Father, this is Reginald Tasker.
Ah, one of my favorites.
Oh, puts you to sleep regularly?
Sometimes keeps me awake. Done some impressive research for the Classic Crime Club.
Oh, now, I've always thought that the best papers they've ever written were by Richard Bravo.
That old dodo? No. He's written himself out and talked himself out. Now he's drifting around the country, working for a second-rate news service. But I took off and left them. For the moment, anyway. I wanted to see my long-lost daughter.
Oh. I've sometimes wanted to ask if you've ever thought coming back to the criminology racket. There's been nobody like you since you left.
Well, all compliments aside, my later books didn't sell as well as my early ones. And then the war came. Now I write filler.
Oh, you've written some things that won't soon be forgotten.
Well, let's hope.
And now your daughter's going to try her hand.
At writing, she can't even spell.
Oh. Well, I do get lonely here with Kenneth away. I was thinking of putting together a murder mystery in the evenings.
And you're encouraging this competition?
Well, I was rather stumped by her last question. She was asking whether or not criminal children are always the product of environment.
Nothing difficult about that, little one. They are. Look, can't I have some of this wicked mixture you two are lapping up?
Yes, of course, Daddy. I'm sorry. So, do you think these children are always the product of their environment?
Always.
Now, I couldn't prove you wrong, of course. But some doctor friends of mine assure me that we've been placing too much emphasis on environment and too little on heredity lately. They say that there's a type of criminal born with no capacity for remorse or guilt.
And you believe this?
Yes, I guess I do.
Well, I don't.
I've been convinced that there are some, only a few, and certainly very unfortunate, that are incapable from the beginning of acquiring a conscience or a moral character. Not even able to love, except physically. No feeling for right or wrong.
I've heard such assertions, but haven't seen any evidence behind them. If you encounter a human without any compassion or pity or morals, he grew up where these things weren't encouraged. Now that's final and absolute. This stuff you're talking is Tommy Rob.
Do your doctor friends have any evidence?
Well, they can't prove it yet, but they say that there are some born into the best of families, given absolutely every advantage of education and discipline, and given absolutely no moral scruples. It's as if they've been born blind. You can't expect to teach them to see.
And do they look like brutes?
Are you sold on this?
I'd like to find out.
Sometimes they do, but oftentimes they present a more convincing picture of virtue than normal folks. A wax rosebud or a plastic peach can look more perfect than the real thing. They imitate humanity beautifully.
But that's horrible.
Some of them have done some pretty horrible things and kept on looking innocent and sweet.
I'd like to examine the evidence. Until we do, there's not much sense discussing it.
Oh, well, I'd like to go into it with you, Mr. Bravo. This clinic I frequent came long ago to the conclusion that there are bad seeds. Just plain bad from the beginning, and that nothing can change them.
And this favorite murderess of yours, the one you were speaking of the other day, is she an innocent?
Bessie Danker?
Yes.
Oh, was she a bad seed? Oh, well, she may have been. Because the death started so early in her vicinity. In fact, she earned her sobriquet of the Destroying Angel in early childhood.
So then she began young.
Well, yes. The name wasn't applied till much later, when the whole story of her career came out. But Bessie was lethal and accurate from the beginning. One of her most famous murders involved the use of the deadly amanita, a mushroom known as the Destroying Angel, and some clever reporter transferred the term to her. In fact, it was a colleague of Mr. Bravo's, unless I've missed something.
It may have been. I don't know.
How did she end?
Oh, Mr. Bravo knows more about it than I do.
I've forgotten the whole thing. Put it out of mind.
Well, tell me, how did she end?
You don't want to probe into this mess, sweetheart.
Yes, I do.
Can't we change the subject?
No, I want to know what happened. Tell the rest of the story.
There's the mystery. By the time the authorities got really roused about her, she up and disappeared from the Middle West. Just seemed to vanish. Oh, she had quite a fortune by that time. And the fellow that knows most about her maintains that she went to Australia. A similar beauty emerged in Melbourne. Her name was Beulah Demarest. So, if it was the same person, she didn't have to change the initials on her linen and silver.
How could she kill so many and not get caught?
Oh, you wrote a famous essay listing all of her methods. You must know it better than I do.
Not at all. I've dropped all that. I haven't read the recent literature.
Well, tell me, did she ever use violence?
Forgive me, sir. I'll make it short. She used a specialty of poisons. Studied not only the drugs, but the toxins and the lives of those she wished to kill. Oh, it's practically impossible to prove murder when the victim dies of rattlesnake venom in western Colorado. There are too many diamondbacks about. And tetanus can be picked up in any barnyard. She made use of such things. It all came to a sudden end. She was indicted again, took off for parts unknown. But was there a child? Was there a little girl?
I never heard of one. Must be a recent addition to the myth.
I have one more question for you. Was she ever found out here?
Not in this country. 3 juries took a look at that lovely, dewy face, heard that melted, cultured voice, and said she couldn't have done it.
She wasn't convicted.
Not guilty. 3 times.
Tell me, did she have an enchanting smile?
Oh, dazzling by all accounts.
She was doomed.
Absolutely. Doomed to commit murder after murder until somehow or other she was found out.
She would have been better off if she died young.
And society would. But we're living in an age of murder. Never in all of history have there been so many murders as in our century. Out of all murders from the beginning of history to 1900. And then out of all the murders after 1900, and our century wins. All alone. And on that merry note, I think I should take my leave, for I meant not to bother you, and I have been lecturing.
You've got a highly questionable theory there, young man, about heredity.
Oh, I'd like to go into it more with you when there's time.
Let's do that next time I'm in town.
Right. And now I'll take my leave. Mrs. Penmark, I'm afraid the pleasure's been all mine.
Not at all. I'll call you early in the week.
Right. I'm always about. Good night, sir. Excuse me.
Good night, Mr. Tasker. Are you really planning to write something?
Oh, I don't know. I was just asking some questions. You saw Kenneth in Washington.
Ah, yes. He's looking well. At least as well as possible when a fellow's tired and lonesome.
Yes, we planned to go somewhere this summer, but then there was a change of orders, so...
Am I looking too closely, Christine? Or is something heavy on your mind?
Does it show on my face?
Everything shows on your face. It always did.
Well, I'm not sure that anything's wrong, now that you're here. Oh, I always felt so safe and comfortable when you were in the room. You have that same effect on me now.
Well, to tell you the truth, it was you who did a magic for me. I'd always wanted a little girl, and you were everything lovely a little girl could be for her old dad, huh? But Christine, what did you want to ask me that night you phoned?
Let me think for a moment. Would you like another drink? I'll get you a drink.
I guess I will. But let me fix something, sweetheart. What do you have, another?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Then speak up, darling. It's between us, whatever it is.
My landlady here is something of an amateur psychiatrist, a devotee of Freud, constantly analyzing.
I know the sort.
Her name is Breedlove. You'll meet her because she's offered a wonderful room for you to stay in while you're here. Rhoda's having dinner with her tonight.
You were about to come out with something.
Yes. Well, what I was going to ask reminded me of something I confessed to her the other day. I told her that I'd always thought that I was an adopted child and that my mommy wasn't really my mommy and the daddy I loved so much wasn't really my father.
And what did she say?
Well, she said it was one of the commonest fantasies of childhood that everybody had, but she had it herself.
It certainly is common.
But that doesn't help me. I still feel just as strongly as ever that you're not really my father.
Has something made you think of this lately?
Yes.
Well, what is it?
My little girl, Rhoda.
What about her?
She terrifies me. I'm afraid for her. I'm afraid of what she may have inherited from me.
What could she have inherited?
Father, Daddy, whose child am I?
You're mine.
Daddy, dear, please don't lie to me. It's gone beyond where that will help. I've told you about a dream that I have, and I'm not sure it's just a dream. Whose child am I? Are you my father? Well, I know this is a strange question to be asking after having been away from you for so long, but for Rhoda's sake and for mine, I must know the truth.
What has Rhoda done?
I don't know, but it frightens me.
It cannot be inherited. It cannot!
Oh, Father, you're not well.
I'm all right. Just get me a glass of water.
Yes, of course.
Just a trace of fibrillation every once in a while. Quite normal at my age.
Here.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And with fibrillation, there's also a slight dizziness, also normal. I'm all right.
Oh, I won't ask you any more questions. I'm sorry.
I think that's better. Let's just close the book, huh?
Only now I have the answer.
The answer?
Yes.
I've always been a very fortunate man, Christine. I can tell you a long history of jobs that came in the nick of time, of lost money found, of friends who showed up to pay off old debts just when I needed to have the money. At every main turning point in my life, a good fairy seemed to intervene to flip things my way. And the biggest piece of luck I ever had, the luck that saved my reason and kept me going, was a little girl named Christine. You were the only child I ever had. My life was futile and barren before you came, and you were a magic for me, as I said, and made life bearable. I changed my whole way of life. I wrote about other things, but I kept on because of you.
You don't have to say anymore.
I don't, do I?
You found me somewhere.
Yes. In a very strange place. In a strange way.
I remember the place.
I don't think you could. You were less than 2 years old.
I either remember it or I dream about it.
What kind of dream?
Well, I dream of a bedroom in a farmhouse in an orchard out in the countryside. I share the bedroom with my